All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the speeches. First, we've got Steve Karski presenting today. And Steve, I've got to confess that I did not print your introduction, but I'll do my best here. So Steve is now the Vice President of Education, right? Former President, Vice President of Education now, and he has been with Toastmaster 3 years?
About 7.
7, way off on that, 7 years. And today he's going to give a speech on connecting with storytelling. And it's going to be about leadership lessons he has learned. So without further ado, Steve, come on up. There you go.
This over because we don't have a podium. Just someplace to keep my notes on.
Hard drive, ma'am.
Just to get over from it. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, we don't have any guests today, unfortunately. What was your first job like coming right out of college? What was that first job like? You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
For me, I want to take you back to 1978. Got my first job out of college. I just came out of business school, learned all about management, and I became the assistant manager for this small little retail store. And in this small little retail store, I was responsible for making sure the employees on the floor got things done. And so you got to go back to remembering when you first came out of college, because you know, in business school, I learned all about management techniques. I learned all about, you know, how a business operates, a lot about, you know, what accounting is, what communication skills are. And so, of course, I was 20 years old. I was young, I was strong, and of course, I knew everything. So I was pretty dumb. As you go through that, you know that experience where I came into that just gung-ho. I could not wait to get into that role. And I was in there and I was saying, hey, Kevin, go fix that lamp. Hey, Steve, make sure you take care of that customer over there. Price, get over there and clean that stock room. And Rylan, get up there and clean it, change that light bulb, because man, that light bulb's getting bad and we've got to change that so customers can see it. And then get that ladder put away and get back to work, will you? And you know what? I was just like a lion tamer in a circus. You know, I had my chair there and I had my whip there and I was cracking the whip. And for some reason, those freaking lions, they just weren't cooperating. You know, they might have been begrudgingly going ahead and doing what they were supposed to do, but they were just not cooperating. I was giving orders and I was cracking the whip. And after a couple of weeks, I was very frustrated. I was very overwhelmed, stressed out. And my boss called me aside and said, hey, Steve, and his name, by the way, his name was Elson Palmer. It was, you know, still remember his name 44 years later. And Elson is talking to me and Elson says, Steve, I gotta tell you, this is a situation where, you know, I know you're doing a good job. You're working hard. You're here every day. You're presenting to these folks. And, you know, they're just not eating what you're feeding them. And what I mean by that is, you know, it's not what you're telling folks to do. It's how you're telling them to do things. People don't like to be told. People prefer to be asked. So I want you to think about that. I want you to start asking people to help you as opposed to telling them what to do. And it was like a big light bulb that went off in my head. It was like, really? I never thought about that. And as the weeks progressed, things got progressively a little bit better in the company. And I felt much more confident. The employees started doing what, you know, getting along much better with me, and it was much smoother for all of us. But Elson gave me quite a gift there, because he gave me a chance to think about, you know, what it is I was doing, gave me a chance to reflect on it, and learned a lot about teamwork, learned a lot about interpersonal skills, learned a lot about how do you actually manage people, and took that into my career. The rest of my career, of course, wasn't all smooth sailing. About a decade later, had my opportunity to do my first speech in front of a business group. 30 people were going to be there in this audience, and I was a little bit nervous. I was preparing for that speech, and, you know, holding onto that podium and reading my notes as I click the slides, you know, as nervous as could be. I was sort of like that new driver in the car. You ever have a driver where, as a new inexperienced operator, you're that rookie driver, and you're driving down that first 2-lane road with cars on both sides. You're all by yourself, petrified that you're going to scratch one of those cars. You know, those cars are your father's new car, and you got a car coming the other way. Just nervous as could be. And that's the way I was there. And I had my boss at the time, his name was Steve Chambers. And Steve said to me, "Hey, Steve, don't worry about it. You got this. You've been through this, and I know you can do this. So just relax and get up there and do what you're supposed to do." Quite honestly, it went over so much better than what I expected. But here I am in this dark room, just me and the slides and me and this podium. And I got through it, and it came off better than expected. And of course, throughout your career, you have things that change. And in my career, I've had a lot of turbulent times. And if any of you have been in a job or corporate America long enough, you certainly will have changes in organizations. So there's upsizing, downsizing, right sizing, you know, mergers, acquisitions, all kinds of changes in organizations. And those organizational changes cause a lot of turbulence, you know, and as you're going through that experience in your career, you're holding on to dear life to make sure you get through that. You ever go whitewater rafting? It's a lot like whitewater rafting. You're sitting in this inner tube. It's a great big inner tube. Unfortunately for your career, you're by yourself. You're holding on to the side. Everything's going just fine. You know, you're cruising along. And then up ahead, you see a little bit of mist up ahead in the distance, but that's okay. You're cruising along. As you get a little closer, the mist gets a little bigger and the waves start churning. And then all of a sudden you see that there's an 8-foot drop that you're about to hit. And you hit that drop, and all of a sudden, you know, you are in chaos, and your job has just gotten reorganized, or your job has gotten eliminated, or you're getting downsized and your job is no longer needed, or you're going to have to do twice the work. And you're going through that turbulent time. And through those turbulent times, all you can do is hold on, because you don't have anybody else that's controlling that ship for you. But fortunately for me, I had my wife there. My wife had been around for, you know, my entire career for the most part. And whenever I came home in that situation, she would always, you know, talk to me about it. And she'd say, "Don't worry, you got this. You know, you've been through tough times before. It'll happen again." And so let me ask you a question. Who have you encouraged at work lately? Who have you told that, "Hey, don't worry about it, you got this"? Who have you had in your work that may have been a lion tamer that you got to say, "Hey, come on back, let's talk about how we interact with folks"? Or who is that person who is that brand new rookie driver holding onto that steering wheel, getting ready for a presentation at work, and they need some reassurance? Or who's that person that's on that whitewater raft all by themselves and going through some turbulent times, and they just need to have somebody to support them, tell them how you feel about them, and tell them that you know they can get through this. You know? So we all need that. And I want you to think about, how do you help somebody make an impact by asking them if they're okay and giving them the encouragement they need? And lastly, who's going to remember your name 44 years from today? Because of the way you treated them and coached them, gave them some advice. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you.